What's up guys, and welcome to Albert Park for round number 1 of the F1 2014 Senna career. And here we are then jumping into the McLaren of Senna, the one that he's going to be driving for the duration of this season. And in the background to start with, I'm just going to have a lap from practice whilst I explain a few very small changes that I've made to the series since the preview episode. Talking of that, thank you so much for the support on that, and if we could hit 100 likes once again, that would be absolutely insane. You know, I never expected such a great response. So I've got to thank you guys. And yeah, like I say, I've been reading the response to that video. And there are a few small things I thought, you know, I'll change it up a bit. And there was one thing, the realistic damage mod. You guys really wanted to see that, so I've added that for this series. I'm going to be using it on the medium setting. And as you've probably noticed, I'm also using the red and white fantasy McLaren skin. You can see it quite well in the thumbnail as well. So I'm going to be using that for the duration of the season. But without further ado, now let's get on with qualifying. So the light went green at the end of the pit lane to signify the first session of the season was underway, and it was immediately evident that normal service was being resumed at the back of the grid. Caterham and Marussia were both bringing up the rear of the field, with Ericsson starting in last and Kobayashi proving that they could out-qualify the Marussias. He'll line up tomorrow in 19th. So Lotus and Sauber both struggled in Q1, with Esteban Gutierrez lining up 18th tomorrow and Pastor Maldonado only managing 17th in the Lotus. Ferrari were also struggling in Q1, only managing 13th and 15th in the session, but Ayrton Senna showed that he hadn't lost any of his skill. He put in a cracking lap to get 4th in the session. Moving on to Q2 now, and it was a story of Mercedes domination. They managed to get 1 at 2 in the session. However, the Williams of Massa was keeping them honest, and the Red Bulls were also comfortably through to Q3. As was Senna and Button in the McLaren, they managed 7th and 9th. But there was going to be only one Ferrari in Q3, and that was going to be Fernando Alonso, because Kimi Raikkonen was eliminated from the session, along with Sergio Perez, Daniel Kvyat and Verne in the Toro Rossos, as well as Adrian Sutil and Roman Grosjean in the struggling Sauber and Lotus. So the top 10 shootout produced one of the tightest qualifying sessions in Formula 1 history, with only 2 1/1000ths of a second separating Lewis Hamilton and his teammate Nico Rosberg, with Felipe Massa not quite having a challenge that materialised, and Ayrton Senna had an absolutely awful session. He just wasn't at the races, and he had an absolute nightmare of a session, as did the Red Bulls, who weren't quite at the races either. But here is the full top 10 for tomorrow's race. So Lewis Hamilton will start the first race of the season from pole position, ahead of his teammate Nico Rosberg by the smallest of margins. Felipe Massa will start 3rd for Williams, with the Red Bull of Sebastian Vettel starting in 4th. Valtteri Bottas is in a very good 5th position, with Daniel Ricciardo in 6th. Nico Hülkenberg in the Force India will start 7th, with Jenson Button being the first McLaren in 8th. Fernando Alonso was disappointed with his 9th place, as was Ayrton Senna, who'll start tomorrow from 10th. Now let's go for the race. Here it is. This is it then, the moment you've all been waiting for. Senna climbing into his McLaren for the first race of the season, and then being strapped in to this beautiful McLaren Honda. And yeah, the team were a little bit disappointed in Ayrton, in fact, yesterday, only managing 10th on the grid. He believed that he could get much further up the grid, as we're just going through the setup in the background now. It was quite a good one, in fact. I was actually quite proud of it. I was really sort of comfortable with it in practice, but unfortunately Ayrton just couldn't hook up a lap in Q3, which was disappointing. But we've got 29 laps to sort of make that up, and we're going to go option prime option on the strategy. The prime stint in the middle just makes it a little bit more flexible, you know. If sort of anything happens, sort of like a safety car or anything, then, you know, it just sort of leaves your options open. We're now going to go out onto the racetrack for the first race of the season, and we just got a quick team radio message.
Okay, mate, Q3 was disappointing yesterday, but I want you to try and get into the top 6 or 7 this afternoon.
Yes, there you heard him for the first time. Ayrton Senna's engineer, Joe from Beaver and Chipmunk, one of my good friends on YouTube. So I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. And now this is it, the first race of the season. You guys have been waiting for this for so long, and I will not keep you any longer. Starting 10th on the grid is Ayrton Senna, and here he is, sitting on the grid, putting it into lean fuel mix. He doesn't want to get too much wheel spin off the start, but it is 5 lights, and away we go for the Senna career. This is it then, and he's got an awful start already up into 3rd gear, but down into 12th place. What an awful start that was from Senna. He will not be happy with that. But he's going to try and hook it round the outside into turn 1. Is he going to get the moves? Is he going to make the move? Yes, he does. He's already up to 10th. And now he's got Sergio Perez on his right-hand side. Gets past Alonso, who's had a terrible run out of turn 2. But he's going to switch to the inside now. Senna, being the magician that he is. What a beautiful move that was down the inside. Didn't dive bomb it too much. He just sort of used his full braking power. Pulled alongside Bottas and hooked it round the outside. A lovely move, already up into P5. He will be absolutely ecstatic with that, as will his McLaren team for sure. And now he's 1.7 behind Daniel Ricciardo, so Bottas must have had an awful start to be so far behind Ricciardo. But I believe it's the Mercedes who are occupying the top 2 slots in this race so far, as we now skip on to the end of lap 1 indeed. And coming around these final 2 corners, Ayrton has been struggling in this sector all weekend, and then he's just got no traction off this final corner. That Williams of Bottas, and also the Force India of Hülkenberg getting a much better run, but he's in the slipstream and Bottas pulls over, and what's happened there? We're going to have a look on the replay. As you can see, he just got stuck on Hülkenberg's rear wheel, unfortunately. So, well, he's going to have to try and put that behind him, and as you can see, getting straight back into the action. He's once again in Bottas' slipstream as he's harvesting ERS, pulls alongside him, and it's going to be very similar to lap 1, going round the outside of Bottas and making the move stick. Very much a scare for Senna, and he's lost a lot of time to Ricciardo, which he's going to have to try and make up. But come the end of lap 4, sitting still in 5th position, but closing that gap on Ricciardo, which is quite nice. And maybe going to try and sort of line himself up for a move. So we're going back to the McLaren pit wall now for another team radio.
Okay, Ayrton, push this lap. We can get Massa.
Yep, you heard it there. Massa's in the pit lane, and our engineer thinks that we've got a good chance of jumping him in the pit stops if we can just put in a good lap here, because we're going to be pitting at the end of lap 7, going for the undercut. And as you can see, our tyres are ruined. Team radio now.
Box this lap, mate. Repeat. Box, box, box.
Yep, there it is. Confirmation that we're coming in at the end of this lap. Senna for his first stop of the season. Really not going well on these option tyres. So it's definitely giving the McLaren boys something to think about in that garage. Do they want to go option prime, or are they going to stick with that option prime option? Providing that Senna can put in a good middle stint on these prime tyres. It's going to be interesting because obviously Senna not used to these Pirelli tyres, and in fact all the drivers sort of adjusting to the brand new compounds of tyre for 2014. But it's, as you can see, outside of the points at the moment, Senna, but he is going for that undercut strategy. Most cars are going to be pitting at the end of lap 8, and now that leads us nicely onto the end of lap 8, where he's jumped up to 9th position into a points-paying position. And now, as we skip towards the end of lap 9, right on the gearbox of Massa, unfortunately he didn't jump him in the pit stops, but obviously Ayrton has that advantage on 1 lap newer tyres. So it's going to be very interesting to see whether he can get the move done on Felipe Massa, the Williams driver. And he's got a beautiful run out of turn 1, but just too much wheel spin through turn 2. And that is very much a shame, but he's still on the DRS and he's actually closing at a quite considerable rate on Massa. That 20 extra horsepower from the Honda engine is helping him. And sure enough, come the middle sector, sorry, the final sector in fact now, of lap 10. Is he going to try and make a move on Massa going into this corner? The final complex of corners. No, he thinks better of it. Maybe he's going to have a better chance next time. As you can see, coming towards the end of lap 10, jumping up into 6th and 5th position, in fact. But now lap 11, this is the real chance of getting Massa. As you can see, just 0.6 of a second behind, and what a beautiful run that is through turns 10 and 11. Going to try and hang in the slipstream, putting it into rich fuel mixture. Is Senna going to make the move down the inside on his fellow Brazilian? He does, and well, it looks as if he's got the move done. Massa's just bailed out of that move. As you can see, left him plenty of room. But he didn't want to take it anyhow. And now as we're jumping onto the end of lap 11 once more. And, well, we're maintaining that P4 come the end of lap 12. But we're now under fire from Valtteri Bottas. That's Massa's teammate. And as you can see, he's on the option tyres. So he's gone option. And I think the Williams boys are in fact going to be making 3 stops this afternoon as we make the counter-attack move down the inside of Bottas. A pretty easy move, but Daniel Ricciardo is really showing his pace. Luckily, we do seem to have the pace on the Williams guys. It's just out of that final corner. The traction is so poor as we now go down to turn 3. The safety car's been deployed. Well, that is very interesting. As you can see, we are down to 20 runners in the Grand Prix, but it never really crossed my mind at the time that a safety car might be deployed. So the realistic damage mod proving that it's throwing up a few surprises, and come the restart, we're going to try and maybe get Daniel Ricciardo, but no, he's got so much better traction than us. His master's in the pit lane, so that's really screwed his strategy. But now come lap 17, we've got another safety car. Wow, it's all happening in this race. And what are we going to do now? Team radio.
Safety car, box, box, box. We're going for a different strategy. Repeat, we're going for plan B.
Yep, we're actually going to come in for a pit stop. Senna is just sort of not too confident on those option tyres. So just to be sure, the McLaren guys are calling him in for his final pit stop. And it is going to be a set of the prime tyres. He's going to have to take these 12 laps, though, to the end. And even these tyres that he's had on for 10 laps are pretty much ruined themselves. So maybe struggling in the last couple of laps in the Grand Prix. Maybe the last 3 or 4 laps, in fact. But now we are under safety car conditions, so he's going to get a couple of laps sort of to get used to these tyres. He just gets ahead of Max Chilton. That could prove crucial come the restart, seeing as there's no cars between himself and Daniel Ricciardo. But now we are at the restart. And he's going to put it up into rich mix. Yes, he is. That could be dangerous. And he does put it back into lean. Because obviously Ayrton knows what bad traction he gets off that final corner. So being the wise driver he is, he puts it down into lean. But now we're under green flag conditions as we go past the final safety car line. And Senna now putting it up into rich mix. But he's just not quick enough to get past Ricciardo. Although he's got so much more straight line speed, it's just so difficult to pull up alongside that Red Bull. And as we go through turn 1 now, Ayrton just cannot get it hooked up, unfortunately. But I tell you what, come the end of lap 20, there are some cars squabbling ahead. And this could be his chance to maybe make a move, as there's the back marker in the Sauber. Is he going to go down the inside of Daniel Kvyat, the rookie? Yes, he is. And that is Valtteri Bottas, who somehow managed to get ahead of Senna as he taps his rear end. That could have been costly for himself. But nonetheless, he's going to try and maybe make a move down the inside. Yes, he does. He's from way back. That was an audacious move. And once again, a Williams driver just bails out of the move. It was a fair move from Senna, you know. He left him plenty of room on the outside. But obviously, Bottas did not want to take it, as it gets so much oversteer into that penultimate turn. But coming out of the final corner seems to get pretty good traction that time. And now as we're coming towards the end of lap 20, there are plenty of cars into the pit lane. That promotes Senna back up into P4. And now it's just Daniel Ricciardo and the 2 Mercedes. No, it isn't, in fact. It's Kimi Räikkönen who's running in second position, but I believe he has still got to stop. I think he'll be coming in at the end of lap 21. So, as you can see, he is holding up Daniel Ricciardo nicely for Senna. And maybe now Senna is going to fancy his chances. Obviously, well, he's had these prime tyres on for quite a long time. Or he will have done by the end of the race. And I think he stopped on the same lap as Daniel Ricciardo. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the case. And it's just going to be a case of who can save their tyres the best. And can Senna pick his opportunity to get past the Red Bull driver? Coming towards the end of lap 22 and towards the start of lap 23 now, he's very much in contention. And now as we come towards the end of lap 23, this is really the first chance that he's going to get past the Australian, as he's knocking it into standard, not to get too much wheel spin, and that is crucial. But he's just making sure that the Aussie knows that he's there, and sure enough, come the middle of lap 24, he's once again getting a good run out of the S's, maybe running out a little bit wide, could compromise his exit, but he's gaining and gaining and gaining as he's looking down the inside. But I tell you what, Ricciardo is not fazed by the 3 times world champion. And come lap 25, Ricciardo just managed to pull out a big enough gap, and Senna has just got a little bit excitable on those rear tyres. Obviously, he's used to these turbo cars, which is very good. And, well, you know, it's proved crucial for him today because he is in P3. But what's that? That's Lewis Hamilton, who was down into second place. He's made a mistake. And Daniel Ricciardo, who just a minute ago was under threat for his P3. Team radio.
Don't fight him too much. We want to make sure you finish ahead of Alonso.
Yeah, we're not in a fight with Rosberg as he's up to P3. But like I was saying before the team radio came on, Ricciardo was under threat for P3, and all of a sudden he's into the lead of the race. So how the tables turn. But now Senna getting ever so close to the gearbox of Nico Rosberg. Obviously Senna raced with Keke Rosberg back in his F1 career, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. But now he's just getting so much understeer at this stage of the race. The tyres are just not, well, they're just not gripping in, it doesn't look like. So, yep, come the end of lap 29, sure enough, he has fended off that competition from Fernando Alonso, and it looks as if he's going to take P4 on his Formula 1 return. Daniel Ricciardo does take the race victory. Absolutely superb stuff for the Australian. The crowd are going to be going wild for him, and they're also going to be going crazy for Senna, who is a firm favourite in these parts of the world, as he is everywhere in the world, and he comes across the line to get P4. 12 points for McLaren, and also a 6th place for Jenson Button, which means there's 20 points in the bag for the McLaren team. They are going to be absolutely ecstatic with that. And I tell you what, that was a superb race. Make sure you do hit that like button if you haven't already. But as you can see, there are the race results. Daniel Ricciardo taking the race victory, slaying the 2 Mercedes drivers with Ayrton Senna in 4th place. Standout in the top 10 was Pastor Maldonado in 7th. The safety car periods obviously helped him. And no points for the Williams guys. Well, they had the pace, it looked like. But they just could not convert it into a victory. Or not a victory, any points in fact. And as we go on to the Drivers' Championship, that is obviously the same as the the race result, in fact. It's the constructors' standings that we want to be looking at. And as you can see, McLaren there sitting in 3rd place. But Mercedes, of course, they're leading the way already. Looking ominous for the rest of the season, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank you guys for sticking around for nearly 17 minutes of your lives. And it's been a pretty epic race, if I do say so myself. As you can see, the McLaren guys are really happy with Ayrton. His race engineers set him a target of 6th or 7th, and he've ended up getting 4th place, which is fantastic. Like I say, make sure you like this video if you haven't already, and next time we're going to be travelling to the Bahrain International Circuit for round number 2 of the Senna Career Mode. If you want me to make any changes to this series, don't hesitate to ask in the comments section, and I'll look into making changes. But until the Bahrain Grand Prix, guys, I've been Joe. This is a Senna Career. Bye-bye.